This is the Home Energy Generation Project. This is a STEM style project. What you have to do is you've got to work in pairs, and you can only work in pairs. If you are already up to this ahead of the class, discuss it with me, but I'm sure there's someone else that's nearly finished. Perhaps you could go and help them to help them get through, and then they can work with you. So more or less whoever's finished at the same point as you is someone that you can pair up with. If someone is a few lessons behind, don't wait for them just because they're your friend, because that defeats the purpose. So let me know if there's any issues with that, but otherwise it should be easy enough to find a pair to work with. The idea here is that you are brainstorming and designing a way to power a device at your house using an alternative method. So you could do this two ways. You could either find or design a way to generate your own electricity, or you could design a way to actually run the device without needing electricity. A very basic example of that could be something like your dishwasher, or sorry, your washing machine. You could either come up with some really fancy way to generate electricity to then run the washing machine, or you could come up with some way of attaching a push bike through a chain to the washing machine mechanism, and instead of it being used by power, you just get on the bike and pedal for 45 minutes, and that turns the washing machine over and does it for you. So there's two ways you could do this. You need to produce an A3 poster of your work in your pair. However, the catch is that each team member can only use one A4 page. These two pages must sync up perfectly when combined together. So if you've got a title, I would expect your title to be distributed across both pages, but one person only has one A4 page and the other person only has the other A4 page. The other catch is that you cannot do this on the computer. So given with our theme of resources and recycling, I want you to make this out of purely recycled or renewable resources. So you can't print anything. You can use pens, pencils, textures, that's fine. What I would probably suggest is get old newspapers or magazines or things. You could even go to the printer and take out a bunch of random printed stuff that people have left behind. You could cut it up and make a collage for your headings, anything like that, as long as it's renewable or recyclable resources. The second catch, which was originally designed because you guys were going to be at home and it was going to be an online process, but I like the challenge of it and we're going to continue that. You cannot talk to the person that you're working with in the class. That is face to face. So you cannot sit next to each other. You cannot just have a chat and put your posters side by side and say, all right, I'm going to do this and you do that. Everything that you do with your partner has to be communicated remotely. So you could do this through Microsoft Teams. And I've actually created a guide down here on how to create your own private channel so that only you and your team member can get into it. And you guys have a video chat during the lesson where you might be on opposite sides of the room, or one of you might go outside, or you just go find somewhere comfortable. If it's a nice day, go sit out in the sun, and you guys can talk to each other online through this program. Otherwise, you can use the chat feature and type, anything like that. But you cannot talk face to face, so it adds an extra element. You've got to figure out how can we work as a team from different places or without actually physically communicating. This is something that happens all the time in science. People will collaborate from all over the world, and in a lot of these cases, these scientists are not catching up to have a face-to-face chat. They're doing their Zoom calls, they're sending emails, they're texting each other, these kind of things, and they're coming up with this very revolutionary breakthrough research. So this is what it simulates for you guys. So a couple of criteria. The poster should contain only recycled or recyclable materials. So like I said before, it's only things that you've gotten a second use from. Nothing that you've just used once and then thrown away. So like printing, that kind of stuff. Should obviously have a title and a heading with your idea and its name. So you can come up with a fancy name for this thing. It's your invention. If you want to call it the Power Generator 4000 or something crazy, by all means, go for it. As long as it fits. Don't do something ridiculous like the Yeetatron or something, and it's got nothing to do with the appliance. Cool name though. What else? It should have an explanation of how your invention will work with some scientific background. So this doesn't have to be super in-depth, just some basic concept, how's it going to work. Make sure you've got a sketch or a diagram of this. So how does it work? What are its parts? What are their functions? Basic diagram. Some evidence of your safety considerations. So talking about safety devices on the invention or some mention of a safe operation and risks. That may even be that you make a little guide. Somewhere on your poster is a very simple guide for a user, like a step-by-step on how to operate your device. A list of all the materials required to build the invention. So what is the thing going to be made of? and a seamless join between the two A4 pages combined. So once you're finished, you will give them to me and I'll put them together and they should join up perfectly. But don't cheat, don't talk to each other, don't want you even to see each other's posters until they're handed up. Otherwise you've ruined the challenge. So part A to G is the basic expectations of what I am expecting from you guys and what I will mark at a basic or at a standard level. If, however, you are ahead of time or you really want to put in the extra effort and you want that really high grade, you want that A or that A+, then part H, I, and J are the optional bonus extras. So there's no reason you can't do part A to G really, really well and you can end up with a really good grade. But if you really want that A or that A+, and you've got the time or you're willing to put in the time and go beyond what is expected of a Year 7 program, then these are the three things you can look at. One is that you can build a prototype, so a model of it, obviously not full scale, but a miniature version of it. Doesn't have to work, just a model of the example. You could provide a highly detailed explanation of how the invention works. So originally I've said explanation of how it works with some scientific background. This is a fairly basic explanation. In this example, it's a very detailed explanation. So very complex descriptions of how it works, detailed science, etc., including what kind of energy is being put into it and what kind of energy is being produced or converted into. So that bit you may need to actually look up. That's something that we haven't talked about, and that is quite high-level science. And lastly, you might talk about the efficiency or the renewability of the invention and any possible limitations to its success. So what's limiting it? How renewable is it and how efficient is it? So again, efficiency is something you might need to look into and maybe discuss what it even means to be efficient and how we define that. So here's the rubric. This is what I'm marking off. Part A to G are compulsory. These are the bits I talked about that you must do in the first section. H to J are optional, but if you want to get higher than a B+, then these are the bits that I expect. An A and an A+ are designated for going beyond what is expected at this level, and H to J is definitely that. So if you want that AA+, then the highlighted sections are those optional bonuses. Otherwise, make sure that you fit everything else. So logical fair investigation, that's your design. Safety and or ethics I talked about. Logical conclusion supported by your evidence, that's tied in with the questions. And that's pretty much it. So below I've got the guide. If you want to make your chat page through Microsoft Teams, you can do your own video chats and things like that and no one else can see it. So here's the guide here. Have a look in that task sheet which is linked within this program and it'll give you a guide on how to build your own private chat and go from there. So that is the home energy generation assignment.